baby's gone fishing. Oh yeah, with a rod, reel and line. Yeah, all of her fishing tackle and a bottle of wine. Oh yeah, she's sitting down by the river. Oh yeah, in the wind and the rain. Yeah, hope I see her tomorrow, unless she's fishing again. Oh yeah, but I don't believe she'd have an affair if she's up to her knees in the mud. But it's a kiss that I miss in this war against fish. The one that got away is love, sweet love. The one that got away is love.
I started pike fishing at an early age. I was probably about 10 or 12 when I started piking properly.
38.
What do you think of them? Having never caught one, you know, did it kind of really excite you, the look of the beast?
Yeah, taking it home looked the best part. Because that's what everybody did in
We
them
did
days.
in those days, I must admit,
Everybody
yeah,
did,
that
you know,
happened
you
to us.
can't
Yeah.
believe
You take my first pike home?
Didn't you?
No.
Well, yours the first one was £20. You probably couldn't carry it. It was too
It's
heavy.
£1.25 and I put it back.
Good man.
I'd had a long-term experience of catching pike in little hand nets and taking them up. I used to net these little tiny baby pike about 3 inches long, take them up and try and keep them fed, you know, on little ropes. And
That's how you got the 40 eventually, was it there?
Yeah, and you'd always end up with one pike because you could never keep up with them.
Nigel, when did you actually catch your first pike?
I caught my first
Yeah.
pike by the time I was 12.
Do you remember
I was well
it?
into pike fishing then.
Yeah,
No, I don't
me-
remember. But I remember my
You don't
mate
remember
catching
it?
one £5 plus.
I was a late developer.
And I
What about-
remember-
what-
How old were you then?
I didn't start going
45
fishing
or
until
something?
about 16, 17.
Didn't you? Oh, well, you
No.
probably... You
That's a
used to
bit
fish
old,
Cliff
yeah?
Hole Park.
Cockney lad, you
Yeah.
see. You
We
had
were
other
into, like,
interests.
you know, sex and drugs and rock and roll.
Where Neville lived, there was nothing, was there? And where I lived, there wasn't much
pointy.
more.
I mean, pointy ends.
What do you mean where I was
Yeah.
there was nothing?
Well, there was nothing, was there? Only water.
What better to do
Yeah,
than
but they're
fishing?
still getting flares up there. That's
But us London lads, we did have a few other things like women and things on our minds, didn't
Sex,
we?
drugs,
rape
rock
and
and roll.
pillage. You know.
But I did have a bit of time in the country myself, so I did catch a pike. So before the girls came
I
along.
was a London through and through.
Cheers.
The first time I used to live next door to a guy, an Irish fella, and he went up to Cheshunt, and he used to have this habit of catching, like, say, a bleak or a roach, and putting it on a match rod with a sort of like
yeah,
16
don't
hook,
they?
cast it out, and he actually managed to land this fish, this pike, which was £18. And I mean, this is it makes you cringe when you hear the story, because they actually took it to the Cheshunt station to weigh it.
Oh no.
We were just so naive. We didn't. And
Then of course it's not far, is it? Just across from the pits.
Then he took it home and they ate it. But
Yeah.
that was the first seeing this huge pike caught on match gear, and it was actually in the Angler's Mail because it was, or Angling Times or whatever, because it was quite a feat. But
That's quite
then
something.
we sort of got, you know, I thought, oh, that's not bad, and I started getting a bit better. I started to actually, because I remember years ago having a row with a friend who said you could actually fish for a species. And I said, no, don't be silly, you just fish for what comes along.
What
And he said,
were you
"No."
doing? A rod with maggots and stuff
No,
like that?
yeah, I mean, for instance, like, you know, if you used, let's say, sweet corn, you could catch tench, and I didn't believe that could be done. And he showed me this book by this guy, which was at the time Stillwater Angling by Dick Walker, and I read it, and I started to think, yeah, he's right. You know, you can fish for a species. And we started. I mean, the first sort of I think the first 2 or 3 years, we fished like sort of Hertfordshire gravel pits. Never caught any pike, just used to go through the motions, you know, dead baits and whatever. And then gradually, there was a guy we met called Mac, who was like your typical specimen angler. He had like full beard, everything was green, and he did it right.
But everybody did in them
Yeah,
days,
but I mean,
didn't they, see?
he just basically he was a sad lonely bloke. But the way he approached his fishing just completely turned us round. I mean, from that day onwards, we started thinking about it. Never actually caught a pike yet. I mean, the biggest fish that we ever saw was one that I borrowed my mate this rod, and he cast it out into this shallow bay. And we had rod rests and stuff like that, and he had a run, and the line snapped, and the fish was a good fish, and I forgot to tell him that I'd had a problem with the ring and cut the ring.
Oh my
And
goodness.
the line had gone, you know, and cut the. But
It was just as bad then, wasn't it?
But-
What it is now.
we moved on from one of them Lee Valley gravel pits, and the first day at this other gravel pit, I had a 28 pounder.
First day?
Yeah, which was my first double, my first 20.
I bet you couldn't do that these days,
No,
could
you couldn't.
And that
but
was your first
that
20,
was my
was
first 20, and we'd gone. And I actually had a bet with my dad. I mean, I betted him £1 that I'd catch a 20 or like before Christmas or something. And I've still got the cutting to this day at the end, on the back of the end. And then the funny thing is that it was the 8th biggest pike reported that season.
I was just going to come on to
It's
that.
actually like there's a list of the biggest pike, and it was the 8th biggest pike. And after that, I had like I just carried on, you know, getting more and more into it, and you know, went to
Suddenly,
meetings
when
and-
you saw that 28 pounder,
Oh, I mean,
did you suddenly think, forget trying to catch little
Yeah, it was
roach,
just-
forget the
it's
sweet corn and
completely-
everything like that?
But I mean, at those days I was carp fishing as well. But the trouble is, because of like getting married and, you know, you can't do two. You can't be like a super duper carp fisherman and a super duper pike fisherman. There was a period of time when they both overlap. And my mates who really started up with me have now gone on to carp fishing and have done wonders, you know. But I just went on to pike, and that's all I do now, pike fish.
I started pike fishing by watching a friend's pike float when he went off somewhere on his bicycle, and the float went under, and I was just terrified, and he came running back, and I was holding the rod.
Running back.
He came running back to get the rod from me.
He went on his bicycle.
Well, he came back, put the bike down, ran up to me.
Yeah.
It was only about a £3 pike, but it was a terrifying thing to me, and I just got so excited about it.
The trouble is, there's so much legend associated.
Exactly.
Oh, there is,
You know.
The public, as a kid, you know, you start pike fishing, you think it's like a prehistoric beast,
Oh,
don't
yeah.
you? It's got more teeth than
I
a
mean,
dragon's
when you
supposed
think,
to.
I mean, like, they've been persecuted more than any other species.
Yeah.
You know, and because they're big and they got teeth and whatever, everybody's so afraid of them. You know.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's half their problem. They've had bad PR. They need like someone like Max Clifford around. You know?
And when you catch
They need
one,
somebody like Max
Give them a
Clifford
good
around.
bit of PR.
from when I was 7 years old, there was a stuffed pike in the fish shop in the village where I lived, and that to me was a monster.
How did you start off then? Come on, take us through how you started off piking.
Went netting for sticklebacks with somebody called Pearl when I was 5.
Somebody called Pearl.
Pearl, yeah.
A boy or a girl?
Yeah. Beautiful looking blonde, if I can remember.
Well, yes,
remember
but we know
correctly.
a boy or a girl.
Girl.
Oh, I
Girl,
see.
yeah. And
Yeah.
and then I think a few years later I went out on my own, and instead of catching sticklebacks I ended up catching a little pike, and I think that's where the fascination.
And how old were you
from pike.
then?
25.
Probably 11, 8, 9, 10, 11, that sort of age. And, but then I think I started ordinary fishing when I was about 12, and I caught my first pike when I was 13. I think
Was
things
that
like
as big as-
Mr. Crabtree, Burning
Yeah.
Venables, was the thing that inspired me to go pike fishing. There's quite a few.
Yeah, but that was a strange relationship, though, wasn't it?
Oh, Mr.
I mean, Mr.
there was-
Crabtree
there
and
was-
Jim,
There was,
I mean,
no,
hang on.
there was two lots of people. There was Mr. Cherry and Jim,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Mr. Crabtree
And Peter.
and Peter, right? And the thing about Venables
Weird
that
characters.
always bugged me up was that because he came from down south where they had rivers with bends in them, right, and proper features and trees. I lived in the fens. And I kept going out looking for these idyllic bends and slats and trees.
A classic
I
light
couldn't
swim.
find anything like it. All there was miles of straight
The only
bend
slack he
rain.
found was Slack Alice.
I blame it all on Burner Venables.
Have you had problems with your sexuality, or is it?
Well, there's something I was going to ask you, which was, don't know how to say this. Like you and me
Be
both
tactful.
caught a couple of smallish pike, not from trout reservoirs,
Yeah.
and I think they're more valid than these.
Oh, hang on.
Here's a man.
Okay,
taking
but
his
listen.
hands.
Never, I'll say something else though. Unless you're talking about Corrib mask, you know, with natural runs of trout. I mean, these brain-dead trout they put in reservoirs. I mean, these brain-dead impotent trout.
No, no. gone. No, sorry.
yourself.
No, I was just like,
These brain-dead
controversy.
impotent trout that are taught how to swim not too far away, the sort of like the distance of a trace away from a pike's mouth. A trollonosters. I've said enough
There
then.
are certain people who've got strange ideas about the validity of pike from different waters, and I haven't really got any time for any of it. It's not even worthy of debate in my mind. A pike's a pike, and you know, a trout water. All right, it's an artificial situation. They're stocking rainbow trout to provide good rainbow trout fishing, and the pike do well out of them. But it doesn't make it any less valid. And in fact, if we hadn't got some of that fishing, we'd be completely knackered at the moment. You know, even though most of the times I go to these trout waters, I don't catch any. I hate them.
Trout waters are harder to catch big fish from than a standard water.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
just
Yeah.
Yeah, but they are.
What do you mean,
Yeah.
large
I mean, no,
Let's
rephrase that. They're harder to fish for big fish.
Yeah.
It's probably harder to catch a big fish from a gravel pit.
Well, compare a couple.
Right.
Compare, say, Raisbury and...
Yeah, but see, the problem is that most of the
one.
non-trout waters don't hold pike as big as the trout waters. So if you want a real big pike, then you've got to fish the average pike in a gravel pit peaks out from say 32 to 33 pound. Yeah, they don't. Very occasionally you get like a real biggie. But in these trout waters, that's where the big pike are.
Well, that's the obvious difference, though, isn't it? Because they grow so much faster on
Yeah,
a high
but
protein
they-
food, isn't it?
Don't say that.
Yeah, but-
everybody
No,
says
you
high
can't.
protein, and again, I mean that's a
But
misconception.
the thing is, we don't know enough about them yet.
Fair enough.
We don't.
Because they-
apologise for that one then, Neville. That's
See,
my
my fish-
ignorance.
my
but,
fish-
but it's something, though, isn't it? That
it's
That is
extra
the gravel
food, full
pit.
stop.
There's no trout in there.
Yeah,
My
but that,
fish is-
I think the only thing that
nor
you've got.
with our two 40-pounders, they were...
I haven't caught a 40-pounder, but you know, it wasn't from a non-trout water either.
It was Nigel who brought the subject up. He said his was not from a trout water.
Whatever you do, don't mention the war. Didn't
Yeah.
please.
Or don't mention
don't-
40-pound pike
But,
either.
I mean, when you look at a trout water, the fish, a very young fish, they're just like, you want me to say it?
Yeah.
Just like Elvis. They're like rock stars. They live fast, die young, and nobody knows how.
They do.
Yeah, I mean, let's say a 7-year-old fish from a trout water is what?
Could be
be
very
30
big
pound or
fish,
whatever.
yeah.
7-year-old fish from a gravel pit is probably like that big. They just, you know, I don't think we know enough about them. I don't think
No.
we know enough about the turnover of fishing in the trout, like let's say for instance Bow Beach. At one time we thought it had finished, and then all of a sudden it's perked up again, and there's the new strain of
We
fish.
don't understand the mortality rate of the trout water fish, because it's obviously clear from the fantastic fishing at Bow Beach in 1 year, followed by dismal fishing the year after and the year after that.
See-
they obviously did die.
Oh, definitely, I'm sure
I mean,
they have.
though we all tried to believe that they hadn't.
But then you get a lot of circumstances.
What do you mean a different strain? I mean, you're talking about a different
Well, they're
weight
just
class
physically
of larger fish.
Well,
suddenly.
they're just they're almost like a different species because they react different to weather conditions and stuff like that. They're just totally. You've got to throw the rule book out the window and start again. I mean, there's this method at the moment, the bottom bouncing, which I don't subscribe to 100%, because I know people that have fished trout waters as well and caught them in 5 foot of water over 30 foot. You know, where a lot of the time the trout are sort of mid-water or high up in the water. Even in the heart of winter, these guys have caught, you know, just by using baits only 5 or 6 foot deep.
Why don't you agree with that?
I just don't. To me, I don't like the idea of just going around a reservoir, bouncing something on the bottom. To me, I just don't feel. I think you're all right. You're you're fishing for non-feeding trout.
Exactly. But you're also
But I think if you could sort of almost do the same thing at mid-water or 2/3 down, I think you would stand more chance. I just haven't personally. I haven't done enough of it.
But then, Eddie, you could say that about almost every kind of fishing, that even feeding with a natural bait, you're stimulating the fish into eating something that wasn't going to be there unless
Yeah, I
there's an
mean
angler
they're
there.
taking it. They're
I
taking it
have to
out of
agree with you
spite,
that, though, yeah.
as opposed to in spite. And that's why I've been successful in the methods that I fish, because I've always subscribed to that theory. You know, I mean, I would say 75% of the fish I've had over 25 pound have been on live baits, you know, and within 30 to 40 yards of the bank. Although I like drifting is the thing that I probably do best, I haven't caught a large number of big pike on drifting, and I haven't caught a large number of big pike on pattern ostrich.
Well,
for some
funny.
reason, I don't know why.
That's funny, that is, because
not that funny.
No, I was going to say it's funny because I've found the same with me. The largest pike over 25 pounds have all come, even drifting, have come, say, if you're talking about a thing on...
From 0 to 30 or 0 to
What
40.
did you get your 39 on?
700
drifting.
yards out.
Drifting what?
Roach.
A live roach?
Live roach on a homemade float and homemade tackle rig.
Diane spoke to Neville on the phone. It's Neville, he's not. I said, no, he's out fishing somewhere and he's caught a 40-pounder. And Di said to Neville, it's a 40-pounder, and she said, hello? Is there anybody there still? Hello? Hello? Pardon? Nigel's had a 40-pounder. Pardon? Hello? He'd gone.
Pleased for you.
Nobody's ever pleased with anybody catches one that big. You're not allowed. No, it's amazing we managed to get away with what we do, really. I mean, you're married, I'm married, he's married, but you're not.
Not at the moment, no, she left.
Is there any particular reason for that?
I wonder if it's got anything to do with pike fishing, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, when I first met my wife, I kept. She was a student in Leicester.
But I've seen photographs of her fishing, so things must be all right.
When we first met, she did do a little bit, but she's been too busy in recent years to go fishing. But
Too busy trying to leave, or what?
Probably, but when she was a student, she lived in Leicester, and I used to come and stay with her, and obviously I want to go pike fishing at the weekends as well. So I obviously kept my live bait in her.
Everybody else at that age was bonking.
Yeah,
I was going pike fishing.
And bringing his live bait to the
I don't wish to
girlfriend.
say anything about that at all, but you know, it's necessary. In fact, I think I've kept live baits in quite a few different people's baths because it's necessary. Yeah.
I mean, all I have to do, I have to gain brownie points. So, like,
So
in
you
the
don't
summer,
keep live baits
no.
in
So
the
in the
bath?
summer, it's like DIY, do the house up. I mean, when you look
You
over
must
the
have
years,
a real crap house if you have to spend every summer
it's
doing
just,
it up.
It must have cost like.
Well, it goes away
thousands
so
and thousands
much.
just to keep her happy, just so I can go fishing.
The
It's
only
just
one-
incredible.
I've never met your wife.
No, you don't want to.
Oh yeah, I've met her.
So-
The only mistake I've ever had, we had live baits in a bath in the garage years ago, and my son was about 3 at the time, and he went in and he used to circle about with the net and trying to get the live baits out the tank.
They always do. They all do that.
Well, mine ended up in the bloody tank. I went in the garage and his feet was in the air and he was actually in the tank.
I remember
I never told my wife though.
Oh.
So she never stopped me keeping it.
Every house I've lived in had always had to be like plumbed in.
You've lived in a
especially.
lot, haven't you,
Yeah,
mate?
I've been. Yeah, the cardboard box had an extension garage. And,
Down the road,
no, I
you
mean
lived
they've
for a
always had
while.
to be geared around fishing. Like, you know, the garage is full up of fishing clothes and stuff. It's got a boat in there. There's like we got a sort of outbuilding that's full of fishing gear. Like everything is geared, but you still got to do the DIY. That is.
You've got to do something that pleases
You've
them,
got
yeah?
to do things that please them. I mean, I wouldn't have been able. I don't think I would have caught as many pike if I hadn't have had my missus as a bit of support.
Oh, you've got to have a tolerant wife,
How many like nights out that you've not turned up for because you're knackered because you've been fishing the day before, or parties that people invited to your functions.
Because the
and
fish
whatever.
turn on and things start going
just,
well,
just
anything.
For the fact that when you get back, like, do you want to go down the pub or
But
what?
does that really happen? But I think there's
Yeah, I
something
mean-
else that women are lucky with fishermen. I mean,
They never see it.
despite my present circumstances, no, because I think that there's the little boy within fishermen that has their wonder about nature. This is my serious bit.
Isn't nature wonderful?
Yeah, that sort of stuff,
that was
which
one of
makes
my-
them good romantic people. In
Oh,
fact,
yeah, I mean,
let's get down to Nige.
Well, here comes.
Is he
You haven't
romantic?
split up yet, have you then?
No, is he
Most of
romantic?
my mates are fishermen.
I think
Most
fishermen
of
are
them
good
go pike
lovers.
fishermen.
Fishermen are good lovers. I prefer to not go fishing so much now and save what time I have off till after Christmas, up towards March.
I mean, you know, out of all the sort of modern.
You lot go to all the
pike
time.
fishing. Yeah, I wished. If I managed to go sort of once or twice a week, I'm pretty lucky.
Yeah, you can't actually make any money, or you can't actually make a living out of going pike fishing, unfortunately. You know, theoretically you could, but nobody is so far.
Well, that's not
managed
true,
to
Neville,
put it
because
into
you have made money pike fishing a
Yes,
lot.
but from the-
Pike
but-
bait
but-
is your
but from-
business at the moment.
From the sidelines.
Your
but
record
the-
pike.
But the actual act of going pike fishing, you can't actually make money.
I've probably
What
lost
about
more
field
money.
testing stuff then, Nigel? I mean, how often is that going to make you money?
No, it doesn't make you anything.
I mean, all you get is bits
Costs
for
me
nothing.
thousands. How many miles do you do a year in your car?
3, 4, 5,000.
Yeah,
Is that
exactly.
all?
Yeah, I mean,
fishing.
I'm in the centre sort of location. Of,
Yeah.
I mean, I did at that Horseshoe Lake, for instance. I worked it out. I did 3,000 miles for 13 blanks,
Yeah.
and that was. And normally, if I go fishing, it's at least 150 mile round trip.
Yeah.
That's minimum. Sometimes it can be more, but I'm lucky that I live in the area I live because it's fairly good access. But yeah, I mean, I think the furthest I drive in a day for a comfortable day's fishing is to the Broads and back. And that's pushing it. I mean,
That's
that
a
is
laugh,
nasty
though, isn't it?
drive.
It's like you're going to say, I'll drive X amount of 100 miles before I'll give up, you know, if I do those blanks. You wouldn't, would you? You'd carry on for the rest of your life, though,
Yeah,
wouldn't
I mean,
you?
I think Norfolk is 120 miles from where I live, and it is a bit of a slog. But
Yeah,
I
but
mean, I would say out of all the modern day pikers that you are the most dangerous because you've got
Oh, no,
time,
I'll
money,
second that.
and the
I haven't got
inclination.
the time
Psychopath.
off.
You have. You've
I haven't
got the
got the
time,
time.
the
You
money,
seem
and the
to
inclination.
be everywhere all the time. I reckon you've been cloned. I reckon it's
Radio
real.
controlled stuff and stuff, you can be
You are
got
Mr.
everywhere.
Dangerous.
What's
How can
all
I
this
be
stuff?
Mr. Dangerous?
No, I mean you've got but you've got the balance right. I mean, I feel. I mean, I don't do enough fishing. I think I'm like by the time I finish, say, work on a Friday, I've had it up to here, and it's like the job I do is not so much strenuous in physical work, but it's just aggro, and I don't really feel like I'm in the Saturday and Sunday club, which is
Yeah.
a good day to be in.
see,
It's the
I'm
worst
lucky.
days to go
Yeah.
fishing, isn't it?
I don't fish on a Saturday
No,
or
but
Sunday.
But nor do I. I fish if I can, I'll fish 5 days throughout the week and have a rest of Saturday and
If
Sunday.
you fish on Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
I don't. I only fish Wednesdays and Thursdays.
If you fish Wednesdays
Occasional
and Thursdays,
Tuesdays and occasional
you-
Fridays.
you-
And occasional Sundays.
and you stay at home with the family doing the right thing on a Sunday, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
You don't actually do much work, do you? Really?
I do.
cares?
I work
You spend the rest
hard.
of the time
No,
on the phone.
I work hard Mondays.
And that's half day coaching.
Move on to the
I
Friday,
do.
Saturday.
I work.
What's your
Monday,
ideal week then,
Tuesday.
Nige,
No, in an
fishing-wise,
average week,
and-
I would work. This week, for instance, I'll be at work Monday, Tuesday. Then I'm probably
A bit of fishing on Tuesday as well, though.
and Friday. No, I'm fishing Wednesday,
Don't
Thursday,
be
Friday
embarrassed
this
about it.
week.
I'd love to do it.
And then I'm back work on Saturday,
Oh,
and then I'm off
wrong.
on Sunday, but I might go with my son next Sunday fishing. I might just do a few hours on a Sunday.
But that's kind of work, isn't it? That sort of fishing with your son.
I don't fish, I don't think, as much as a lot of people.
I mean,
I
don't-
think
wouldn't
Neville's
be
always
embarrassed
fished more
about
than
it.
me.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially,
I think I did.
Our
I
day's
did
work would kill him,
before.
wouldn't it?
I think I did before. but-
You used to fish 6 and 7 days a week at one time.
Yeah, but mainly half
How did
day.
you do that?
Mainly half day. Well, I mean, when I used to work for the Water Authority, we did. You know, I worked for them for 10 years. The job didn't entail actually doing anything most of the time, basically. And when you did have a job,
are you talking about what? Even the easy bit, like checking licenses or proper
I
water
didn't used to
authority?
do that. I used to.
Should let 'em all
I-
off.
No. I used to.
You don't wanna do it like that.
I used to get. I used to get me report
Suits
form,
you,
right,
sir.
and write false names and addresses in it, right, of people that I'd booked. You know, just to prove I'd been out and nicked someone because.
No one, I've got a ticket to the
No wonder I
I
did.
wonder where I'd had that
Yes,
from.
you're catching
you
that
can't, you
30.
can't trace the file. Well, I needed to do this in order to be able to get the time off to go pike fishing. But the legitimate way of doing it was we used to arrive on site for jobs at 10 o'clock usually. And if they were 70 or 80 miles away from my home, I could go fish somewhere on the way to where I was working, be away by 9 o'clock. Certainly in September, October, November, that was enough to catch a couple of good fish, quite often. And then you go to work, and if you got off early in the afternoon, on the way back, you could drop in the same water on the way back.
I think you're in the trolley to, what was it, Tesco's?
Yeah, that is quite funny.
car park.
All there was Tesco's and the guy who owned it, his office over the lake, and we only fished there on a Saturday and Sunday because the last thing people wanted to see who were working in the office was like scruffy anglers.
But how did you get permission?
Well, my mate
Permission?
Keith,
Permission?
my mate was the bailiff, or he wasn't. He was the bailiff. And when I first went, I went with Bill, and it took Bill had gone down there about 3 weeks before, and it had taken Keith about 4 hours to chuck Bill off, because Bill is just one of them sort of East End characters that you just can't get a word in edgeways. And at the end of the day, he even ended up inviting Bill back because he felt so sorry for him, and that's how we got on.
That's how you caught so many big pike.
Yeah,
from
the
there.
first time I ever fished it, I hated it. I still hated it. It's the worst. It is.
You must be joking.
It is the
Ugliest
muddiest
place, isn't it?
I mean, it was incredible.
But you caught a hell of a lot of fish from there.
But I mean, it
How many
just
did you have
wasn't
from
enough.
there, 30s?
2, wasn't it?
8?
Yeah, but it wasn't like it was
In
just
how long,
dear,
Eddie?
dear.
In how
well,
long?
in the season, like in the season and a season and a half, because it
So
was
you had
part
8
of the,
pike over 30 pounds
yeah,
in
it
a
was part of the
season.
summer. We fished it the next summer just to see. In a way, it was a good experiment to see whether
To
or
see
not
if the rod
pike
still worked.
No, to see if the pike could actually, the theory, if they lose weight or not. And in there, they only lost about £1.50 pound, a summer fish to a winter fish, to a peak winter fish. Although some of the fish did peak. I mean, there was like one fish that was 37.5, which. Oh, there was one fish I had at 37, which 3 weeks before weighed 34, I think, something like that. Because we recognised it had a lump on its tail, and we put it in the weigh bag, and I said to Keith, that's that 34, that, you know. It went like that, and it went down to 37. And I just, you know, I said, like, it's not, you know. And he
I wonder
looked
if
at
that's
it.
got to do with
Well, it
the
was
fact
just
you
so-
can
This is
hand-
what
you
it
were
is,
handling the
isn't it?
pike
No,
well.
there was just so much food in there. They were the easiest pike I've ever caught.
Yeah, we must be careful about when we say lure fishing, because we've got various people here who've got vested interests in not lure fishing. I mean, I don't want people to lure fish because I sell dead bait. So I mean,
Well, I love lure fishing
That's it.
we're not talking
Away.
with a bait. And I think the Americans have got something to answer for.
Yeah, they certainly are. Yeah, also Japanese.
Yeah. But what about this term bait casting? Bait casting is what? I mean, like, wobbling should be, isn't it, really?
My methods don't involve spinning or lure fishing. I do very little wobbling, only on my chair when I'm drunk.
Did you really get that land egg for 27 on the lure?
I certainly did. That was a real bit of actual.
I don't
We
believe
didn't
that.
even stop. We
Yeah,
didn't even stop the boat, right? As we came round into that Saw Bay, we hadn't even stopped the boat, and I cast out one of them Kasamu things. Let it go to the bottom, and Stuart hadn't even stopped the engine.
Kasamo.
Original choice of
I
lure.
went like
then.
that, and it was there, and I wrote a book, and I've done a video on it, because like now I know everything there is to know about lure fishing. They do look good. I mean, I've got lures indoors in a little cabinet, and they make a lovely display cabinet. I never use them, but they just
Lures
look...
indoors?
No, in my little fishing
your
room.
wife
In my little fishing room, I've got a cabinet with all like lures hanging up, and they look great. I never used them,
No
but they look
teacup.
great.
Well, Eddie,
Nah, don't use
seriously, when would you lure fish? With
Well,
it?
no, I
I'm not, never.
No,
But you have done
only because of that.
because of the rules.
Yeah, but I don't like lure fishing. It isn't what I do best. I mean, the only time, like me and Keith this year in Ireland, we thought we've got to have a go, like trolling on the engine.
Really?
And
Trolling with lures?
Yeah, and we got some.
Yeah?
We had when TG Lures was in business. They gave us loads and loads of lures, and we're using these things like that. Cast them out the back of the boat, went on and had a couple of fish, and it was really exciting. But I think they do a lot of damage to the fish, more than what
Those
most
big
people.
hooks they have
Yeah,
on, I think they're
and we just in the
barbaric.
end we sat there and thought like, nah, let's go back to ours.
And anyway, you said that was exciting. I think it would have been just as exciting using a bait towed
Oh
behind
yeah,
it.
I mean we had baits and things, but we just thought we'd give it a go, and it was exciting. But it just it's not what I want to do. I don't like lure fishing. I mean, if those other people want to do it and want to catch a lot less fish than we do, brilliant.
But they say the opposite, don't they?
Yeah, but all they catch is like little ones. Lures are good for searching out vast areas of water.
With very few pike in it.
Yeah, but I think if you found them,
I prefer
then you would
dead bait still than the lure.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't like lure fishing. I just think it's more fad than fancy. They're designed to catch the angler.
I like it as a method, but
Not the fish.
I don't want to spend all my time doing it. I want to
There are some weird rules about
I want to go somewhere that's a good lure of water, and I want to get kitted up properly,
But I mean,
and do it for a day and enjoy getting a few takes.
the first time I put a crazy
good fun.
I don't want to do it for nothing, day after day, which is what does tend to happen where I go.
I think there's a time and a place for lure fishing, and that's normally on a trout fishery that's never been fished. You'll catch them. But I know I would catch more on my traditional methods. But the thing is, pike don't eat bits of metal.
No, I mean,
Eat lumps of fish.
When did you find that?
I mean, at the end of the day,
that's what I'm
You've
saying,
changed my
mate.
whole attitude to fishing.
no, at the end of the day, if a pike won't eat a live fish,
Well,
then
you
it's
know,
a dead pike.
Of course,
And
yeah.
unfortunately, it is the best method to which to catch. Some people don't subscribe to it, other people do. But live and let live. If all these guys want to go out and lure fish, brilliant for them. It is a fun method. It is fun fishing. So, as you're Mr. Technology Kid,
Am I?
yeah, Mr. Dangerous Technology Kid. Is it true that when you've got so many electronic gadgets that when the phone rings, either your boat sinks or your buzzer goes off?
Now my boat goes off to the left.
Yeah. Well, we did this at Everton.
Somebody just tell me that down like gravel piece.
They just opened the place up after, I think there was blue-green algae, and
My favourite band.
no, there was all these guys had boats, and I was sitting there. I had my remote control boat on a stand, and all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, the propeller started to spin.
Oh, you're
And I
joking.
thought,
And someone had a heart attack at the same time.
what I worked out is there was a guy fishing on the other side of the culvert who had the same wavelength. He was on the same frequency. So I thought, right, that's it.
That's
I'm
Johnny.
going to have you. So I turned my boat off and I got behind the culvert with my receiver. So he goes to put his boat in the water. He went to put the bait in the back of it, and I just went like that, and it shot up. And he's looking like that. So I kept doing this. He managed to get the bait in the back of it, and as it was going out, it went, and then all of a sudden we just creased up laughing, and he looked round and he realised what had
He's
happened.
baiting up your swim as well.
Oh, dear.
That's cruel, that is.
I know.
I hear you're a bit of a stinker.
A stinker.
Yeah,
Why would
you
I
and
be
your
a
dirty
stinker?
tricks with dead bait.
Oh, that's nice. We did. I
Well, I
want to hear.
did. What happened was, Eddie invited us down one Christmas to fish some gravel pits.
Where?
somewhere. I don't know, but that's it. Where? That's
Where?
Did he blindfold you?
No, it was where.
Where?
Oh, where? As in Hertfordshire?
W-A-R-E, not
But anyway, I got roped into going somewhere with him, and he tried to put a dead bait in the back of the car. I don't know why, but he tried, and I saw him do it, you see, so I thought, oh, right.
Not a very successful
No, it wasn't. I put it under my car seat or something.
Yeah.
So next time I was fishing with him...
You
or
wouldn't
something-
notice something decomposing in
No.
yours, would you?
No, because it always smells like that
Yeah.
anyway. Next time I went somewhere with him, his car was parked right by me.
Yeah.
So I thought, I owe ET one. So I got a sardine, took it out of my box, and while he was playing a fish, ran round to the passenger side of his car to put it under the car seat. I opened the door and there was his briefcase. I thought it was bound to be locked. So I opened the briefcase, looked in, there's a big pile of documents. In the middle of the documents, put the sardine, put the briefcase down and pushed it nicely under the heater in the front of the car.
Yeah.
And he'd get nice and warm on his way home.
Yeah.
And I never heard any more about it for a while.
I actually thought it was a job. I had to make a big sardine up as a payback time.
First time I ever met you, Nev, was when I rang you up and asked you to do a slideshow in Wolverhampton. That was years and years ago. And about 6 weeks after I'd rung you up, you were due to do a slideshow in about 2 months after I'd rung you, and you had your big fish off Norfolk. So tell us about that. How did that come about?
Well, I mean, it was part of an overall sort of plan. I'd been fishing on the Fern, which is part of the Norfolk Broad system, and I've just started to find my way about some of the places where the pike get to after the
South Martham, you mean?
after they're off the North Broad,
Yes,
right?
South Martham and North.
No,
right.
away from there because
Away from where other people fish.
when I first started fishing, I thought all these big pike lived on the North and the South Broad, but it soon became obvious because Steve Harper and the rest of them were catching these same fish down at Martham Ferry, later on in the winter. And I thought, well, I mean, there's a photograph of one of them with one of the pike that head off to the North Broad, so it's obvious what was happening. It's the fish moved
They were
back.
moving them along.
Moved about. Yeah, they probably moved them down.
So you
the river.
found their movements and what time?
Yeah, well, so I mean, up to December, I was fishing the river and I was making a bit of progress, and I had a 20-pound 9-ounce pike, and then it froze over and everything just went. For
Really?
6 weeks, I couldn't fish anywhere.
God.
And it was just one of those things. I just felt that if and when it thawed out, it was going to be a good chance of me catching
Yeah.
a 30-pound pike, which is what I was always after. I mean, remember the year before, Peter Woodhouse had the 3710 off of Candle Dyke Junction, which was a sort of incredible-looking fish, which was never seen again.
No.
And I mean, that was what I was hoping for, to encounter something like that. So off I trundled when it falls out to Martham. First day, a 6-pounder. Next day, I go fish where, just by luck, in September, I'd had a dropped run. Little clues which probably meant nothing, but I mean, just made me fish by this great big hawthorn bush, bramble bush. And first cast, 41 pounds 6 ounces.
And how did you feel when you caught it?
Well, I didn't know that it weighed as much as what it did, because the proper scales were back in the car. The big scales. I mean, you didn't used to go around carrying weighing scales that weighed more than 32 pounds.
No,
you
I
didn't
never did.
used to ever expect to catch anything that big.
Yeah, you're right.
But you kept a set in the car.
But you must have been really shaken up when you realised it was going to bottom out those scales and everything.
I measured it first. I think I got 49.5 inches.
Did you know what the scale was likely to be for a 49-inch long pike?
Anything 49 inches long was going to be huge. I mean,
No, that says, yeah.
That was
What was your
obvious.
personal best at the time? I can't remember.
The personal best was, believe it or not, same fish in 34 pounds.
Was it?
About
Oh,
a
that's
year
right.
previously. Now, I didn't realise that.
Dora, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, I'll explain why we got to that.
Big fish.
The reason why we called it that was it's just a silly song by a group that's no longer in existence called Stackridge, right? Very obscure little group, right?
Remember?
Right? And they had a song called Dora the Explorer, and because this fish got about so much all over the place, that's how it got that nickname.
Oh, right.
When I caught it at 41.6, I didn't realise it was the same one as the 34, and we've actually since looked back, and Steve Harper's first 30-pound pike was the same fish at 30-something, 30 and a bit, so it had been around a while, that particular fish.
What, Steve Harper had that fish?
A year previously, I
At
think.
what weight?
Just over 30.
Blimey, so you put on 10.
Well, I think it went in 30 to 34 the following year.
Yeah.
And
that's
then
right.
when I caught it, I think there was the second time there was a whole winter and a summer and a winter in between. I think
Yeah.
that's what it was.
So, I mean, possibly that could have actually even been one of the ones that I had.
You ought to look at your photographs.
Because mine was 31.8.
What
Yeah,
year did you have
that-
yours off there?
But I found that's a disappointing thought that could only be 3 or 4 30-pounders going around that whole
Yeah,
system.
but to be honest, the fish that I had, I thought were going backwards. I thought they'd been 40-pound and were going down as opposed to fish going up, because I had a 28.25, which was an absolute peach of a fish that looked like a young fish going up the scale. But the 31.8 and the 31.4 that I had looked like they were coming down. You know when you look at, say, trim fish, they're big and they're big frame, but they look like they could have done with a bit more weight. So yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, this was in the very first days of Norfolk.
Yeah, but whether you catch a 30 or whether you catch a 40 depends on what your luck's like, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Until you caught that fish, right, the one you had, I mean, I wouldn't have known you from Adam, right? But there you
Absolutely,
were in the paper
yeah.
with this dirty, great big pike. And as Andy Warhol says, everybody has their 15 minutes, don't they? Basically, I think Nigel has got 20 minutes at the moment, but everybody has their 15 minutes. And that was your thing. Well, how did how did it happen? How did it happen? Why did it happen? Why didn't somebody else catch it?
Well, someone else did catch it, and that is quite interesting that they caught it at 41 pounds. I, foolishly, because I was so excited by catching it, it bottomed out the scales at 42 pounds, and I'll never know its exact weight.
You weighed yours, you bottomed the scales at 42?
What? I still don't understand to this day how this happened, because reading Neville's book, he'll tell you, and well, you yourself know, Nigel, I mean, don't know what state you were in when you caught your 40, but I mean, I couldn't fish anymore.
Well, I'd had a
do
39 and a half already.
Tough
Now, I wasn't
luck.
escaped when I had my 39 and a half. But when I went to fish that lake where I had mine from, see, I went and I thought, I looked at it, I wasn't going to go there. It was only just an off chance that I went there. I arrived there late. I looked at it and thought, I'd been on the water next door with Eddie Turner earlier, the year before, and
He
I
was
thought...
caught a 30 from
Yeah, who caught a 30, and he really showed
And
me
a
up on
20
there. I did no good,
in
and I
front of
thought,
him.
now he did that, and I'll just
If
try
there's
that
a
on it.
30 there, he's got
So
it.
I did it, didn't I? So I had it. But there was only supposed to be a few fish in there, but I
So
had
you're trying to
three
say you're not nervous if you catch a pike of 39 or 40 pounds?
When
You're
I
not
caught
shaking?
When I caught it, yeah, I do shout. I get excited. When I caught it, all I wanted to do was weigh it, because I thought if ever it's 40 pound, that is. I dreamt of catching a 20 pounder when I was a kid.
Exactly.
Then you dream of catching a 25, and then it becomes
Yeah.
30.
But it's so
and it gets-
easy to actually screw the moment up, because at Langdedford, was it Carl Garrett's fish? They screwed the weighing up of that totally.
Did they really? Was that
I've got it on
44 or
video.
something?
Yeah,
or
that
what?
could have been actually bigger than 44. It could have gone up to 46.
Really?
Have you ever seen the video? They couldn't agree with the weight. This is all of them. This is like 5 or 6 blinding pike fishermen could not agree on the weight. And they even re-weighed it before they put it back.
Yeah.
And they couldn't. So when Stuart caught his 44-pound pike, Stuart he's sitting by a tree
Crying, yeah.
right, with his little fag like, and we said, right, we weighed it for him. We got an old oar and put the
She
the
was
ropes
great
on
fun.
it, weigh bag, and we all looked at the scales and we said, right, that's it. That was 44, and Max Scottish went 44.1. And we went, no, 44 pound. Everybody agreed. Bang, the fish went back, and it was weighed perfectly. But on Carl Garrett's fish, to this day, I mean, you can actually see him saying, "Oh, well, it's 46 minus the weigh bag."
I saw that thing, video thing that you did, and that was well
When I had
documented.
mine, I netted it. I looked at it and I thought, I got it. I went to the other guy on the lake.
You
said,
thought
"I've
you got a 40 pound strip? Well,
I
because
said,
you knew
no,
though.
I knew that I'd got a. I mean, I've seen a few big fish biting, and I knew that I'd got a fish that was 37, 38 plus. Then I picked it up, rolled it in the net, went back to the car, got my weigh bag out, I wet it, I zeroed the scales. But I mean, it's different now. I mean, I've got proper Rubery Eaton scales, I've got a proper weigh bar, and my van was right there, so I lifted up the scales and put my arm on the van door.
Yeah.
So that my arm was up like that on the van door, and it wasn't even wobbling, the scales weren't. So I know exactly how heavy it was.
Well, fair enough.
But I mean, my fish at Bow Beach, Richard Howard and I put it back. Well, that could have been 40 pounds exactly, because that was going from 39 and a half.
Yeah.
But the scales were only
Richard
40
actually told
pound
me that
Avens.
story. But
The Avens were only 40 pounds.
Do you know what happened to me? I was so excited about catching it, having caught 20s, 30s, and I thought, I really didn't. I was almost embarrassed about phoning someone up and saying I caught a 40 pounder, and
It does seem like an unlikely thing to say. I know how you feel.
I don't
right?
know.
I didn't. I got my mobile and I just kept pressing
well,
it.
Nigel,
And I told the world, I've got it.
listen, Nigel, because I've read quite a few things that Neville's written about it, and that's why I don't feel so embarrassed about saying it, because there are these people around there. There's one guy who I thought was a fairly experienced pike fisherman, and a couple of locals came later. They said they'd seen this fish. I knew nothing about the water. I'd been around there, I'd plumbed the depth for 2 days. I spent one afternoon fishing and had a couple up to about 15 pounds, and I only had the 1 day left to fish, and I lucked in, I got it.
At Ardingly there was Martin Gay, Barry Rickards, Colin Brett, me and my mate Alan, and they even cocked the weight up of a fish there. They said it was 34 and it was 32 and a half, because I got it on video again. They're all this. The trouble is
I rest
you need
my
about
case.
3 or 4
You never ever weigh a fish by committee. I think that's
No,
I wait on my own.
Let's say if I catch a fish, I say to Keith, what does it say? And he says Whatever he says is
It's
the
what it
way
is.
that it is.
And you
Because
should never
if I ever-
reweigh a fish.
No,
either.
if I ever
No,
fall
I
out
don't.
with him, then he can ever say to me that, I mean, that I had a 29, well, in fact, it was £30.
It's changing the weight.
It was £30 for. I caught it at 11 o'clock on a Friday night at Tesco's, and we reweighed it in the morning, and it weighed 29 and a half. And I said, I'll call it 29 and a half, because when I first caught my first 30, people said it was 29.15. And I mean,
What happened with the weighing of your fish then? How come it was... What happened?
But
How come it bottom of the scales at 42 yet it was 39.12?
39.12 was absolute bullshit, because that was me being overzealous with I mean, I only have one weigh sling that weighs a pound wet. Yet, for some strange reason, we did weigh it twice. Once in the landing net, unscrewed, wallop, quickly. I spent 15 minutes nursing her in the shallows, in the sack, and then in the weigh sling, put it up there. So it was weighed twice, and
I mean,
I know it sounds stupid, but I took off too much weight. And when I told Anglers Mail on the telephone, listen, I've settled for, I think it's 41, but if I take off the 40, I was just chattering like a nutcase. Said, I'll call you back. They went to print, and if you look at it, it says 39 whatever in print, but Rene has since discovered that this pike weighed over 40 pounds, and so it's my own stupid fault.
It is
is
easy to
easy,
miss.
Joe.
I mean, at Everton one day, there was a fish called, just one Sunday, that on what they used to call bird count day, this fish was caught. It was something like £32, right? Now, they weighed it in a £7 metal landing net. They weighed it, so it came up to £37 or whatever, £39. So the rumour got out that there was 2 30s called on the bird count day. 2 30s were called, one at 37, one at 32, and that is how easy it is to do. There was only one fish, and it was 32. Little mate.
Sounds like Alfred Jardine was down there or something.
You see that one in my book with that fish from Everton. I mean, the only reason that was not even weighed properly was because at the time Everton was so competitive. If you caught a 20, you'd call it 19, as in Bill Palmer's book. That Max Bond was the only witness to that fish. Now, he at the time was a pike fisherman, and he didn't want the story to get around that this fish was that huge. So he deweighed it. He put it on some avens that went bang down to £34. That fish was way over 30.
Which is another reason for not letting anyone near the weighing scale.
Yeah,
No, I
this-
would never know.
Remember, the guy that caught it was his first pike. He never caught another pike.
It's easy, John.
I believe that fish was at least £38. If not.
Really?
It was, yeah, it was like that. It was enormous. But
Like that Carl Garrett fish, that's like a
I
pig.
mean, I'll show you the video, Nev. You have a look.
I believe that Carl Garrett thing has got to go 46 if it's...
They completely cocked up the weighing of that. Let's, for instance, like say you've got that 37 that I had at Tesco's that 3 weeks before weighed £34.5. I mean, if I could have been like fairly nonchalant and said to Keith, oh, that's that 34 with a funny tail, put it back. And when I mean, honestly, the surprise on my face.
What was it?
You can even hear the swearing on the video.
What was it?
I've seen
It
the
was
video.
£37. I just couldn't believe that this fish had put on £3 in like 3 weeks. You know, and I'm going, no, it can't be. Reweigh it. You know, that Keith, what does it say? You know, I mean, he's just about, he can just about talk, let alone like. 2 years ago, there was only 3 fish, like fish over £35 that actually appeared from 1 year to the other. There was the bluebill fish, the avon fish, and what was the other one? I think it might have even been your one.
The birchmere one.
There was only 3 fish,
the
and the
birchmere
next
fish.
year, the same 3 fish appeared.
Yeah.
So like that, those 2 years were pretty lean. I mean, the year of Bow Beach was pretty good because there was like quite a large number of pike were caught. But yeah, I mean, as the trout waters develop, there's been more and more of the sort of bigger fish come along. But I mean, basically, when you think 25 years ago or whatever, I had that 28-pounder, that was number 8 in the Angling Times. I mean, it's come a long way since then.
It's come a long
Obviously,
way.
There's a lot more people doing it. But a 20 is still a good fish. I mean, if you catch a 20, you still like...
Oh, you do.
You know,
I think. I still jump with joy.
In this game, it doesn't always go quite according to plan, and I've had a few disasters over the years, but I think the worst one of all was I haven't been bombed. Born. This Midlands Trout Reservoir where we were fishing, it's probably one of the best pike waters ever. I'm not going to mention the name of it because they get uptight even mentioning the name of their water. What I used to do is I used to fish it and they wanted the pike removed, so I used to take the pike away and put them elsewhere. The pike went all over the place, transported legitimately, because I worked for the water authority then. But one day, the day before, I'd been on a netting job and I'd had a load of small pike off the netting which was going to be killed. So I thought I'll put them in the back of my car and I'll get rid of them. I never got round to it, let them go somewhere else. So I ended up having to go to this trout reservoir the next day. So I left them in the back of the car in the tank of water. Well, I mean, there's no purpose in taking a load of little tiny pike to a trout reservoir, right? They've got a load of big pike in it, waste of time. Anyway, but I thought that's convenient. So off I go, and I leave the car unlocked to go get the ticket. And while I'm in there, somebody comes out, opens the back of my car, looks in the tank, comes in, tells the bloke in charge, and I'm out of there quicker than anything. I'm told, never come back. And I mean,
They think
I hadn't done anything at all, and that's, I always get banned or thrown out for the wrong reason.
I'm the same.
And I mean, I'll never go back there. I complained to the boss of the owners of the reservoir, and they said you can come back any time you like. But
so what you'd basically like to say is, any time you're caught doing anything that may look like you're putting pike in places or taking bait out of things,
You're not doing
it's an accident.
no,
Ban you, fine, but for another reason. That's what you mean, okay?
All people get up to a bit of monkey business here and there. Is you never get caught when you're doing it. You always get caught when you're not doing it. Basically, it's like it's like adultery, I suppose. You probably I don't know anything about that, but you get caught.
That's not what we said earlier.
You get caught. You get caught when you weren't actually doing it. If you see what I mean.
In fact, in this business,
the sheep
coming home in this business with my fingers smelling of sardines, I get accused of all sorts of things. So I'm surprised.
I mean, Nigel, you are a disaster here, really. I mean,
Why am I?
you self-confessed. You say that all sorts of things happen to you.
Yeah, but for a start, he's got his name written on his van.
I haven't
He did
anymore.
have, he took it off.
I've had that taken off.
I mean, like we're poaching somewhere on the. And he's parked his van up on the side, Nigel Williams fishing tackle, mobile number.
It's not my fault.
It's not my fault. I'm ready.
You should have painted on, I am poaching, could you please come and get me?
Well, the thing was, because my name was always on, nobody ever bothered, did they? They always thought that I should be there anyway, because nobody would do that, would they?
You've got a bit of an innocent smile.
It always went down well, didn't it?
Did he?
Well,
I don't think so.
not always, but most of the time.
Well, when you read in old-fashioned books about terrible things that have happened to people to do with pike fishing, I was fishing on Loch Lomond on a famous weed bed where I heard that Tommy Morgan had his 47 £11
He used to play for Spurs, didn't he, times?
Not when it was pike fishing. And I heard this story about someone in a rowing boat, didn't put the anchors down, just moored on a weed bed, had a run and was towed, and it was a terrible evening, and it was the last he was ever seen. Going down the
Old Louis, here we come.
I thought nothing ever good happens to me when I'm fishing. I thought I'd cast out and I was winding back a lure, sorry Neville, and hit into sort of the usual sort of fallen log, and but after a while the damn thing moved, and I was actually towed out of the bay near Balmar, but turned out to stop after about 10 minutes. It was only a 9-pounder. I couldn't believe the way they fight.
Was it motor pike?
Yeah.
Right, come on.
Well, I gotta get one in.
Yeah.
That's a terrible joke.
Oh well, I don't know.
As we approach the new millennium, Mr. Williams, I understand as Mr. Gadget Man, this is the latest in
Bite indicators.
bite
Yeah.
indicators.
I don't know why angling techniques have got me involved, but they have.
Well, you're electric, aren't you?
Well,
You are static. Some say.
it's radio controlled, so we'll turn it on and I'll show you. Okay? Wherever you turn it on, once it's turned on, you just press the button on the top, and that's set now for the day.
So you've got your line through here, obviously, as usual, to the...
Yeah, we'll turn it on this end, and then this is underneath the reel.
Yeah.
The line's clipped in there, standard drop off, and then as soon as you get a pull, the line pulls out, the indicator drops back, and it bleeps 4 times if it's number 4 rod, which will receive on here. It's got a 10-second delay on it. If it's number 3 rod, it'll be 3 bleeps, and so on and so on. Yeah.
That is pretty ingenious. So you can actually be in the pub.
There you are.
Pike fishing. Look.
I've got to run now. Hang on, I've got to go.
But is this not a problem? Does this not encourage you to be too far away from
Well, it's not that I'm too far away, but on a windy day you might be sat behind your brolly and it's raining in the wind, and you've got to have the brolly facing the wind and the rain, obviously, and your rods might be behind the brolly, so you know it's far better. You don't lead to any deep hook fish or anything, do you?
Sounds and looks great.
Yeah, it's a good idea, isn't it?
Terrific.
Okay.
So we have the latest technology here, Nigel.
Handling
Computerised
techniques
boat,
again, yeah, you just turn it on.
which they've just asked you to be a consultant.
Yeah, oh, I don't know what that's a bit of a funny noise there, but anyway. This is you can take this up to sort of 200 yards out. All you do is open the door. You've got 2 doors, put your dead bait in one side, your ledger in the other side, shut the doors up, send it out to the spot where you want, just press the buttons and it dumps, it releases the baits when you get out there. If you want to find the depth, this little aerial here is attached to the echo boat, the echo piece, which is here, and it doesn't matter, up to 200 yards out, this will tell you exactly how deep it is in feet or in metres, whichever you want. There's also a light on for at night, and there's also lights on the boat for at night.
So it's a pretty sophisticated
Superb piece of kit, yeah.
So can you get Channel 5 on this? Oh no, nobody can get Channel 5.
No, not yet. No, you can't quite get
Is it
that.
tuned in?
No.
But I think you can get more than that, and that Nigel, you were saying it's actually, you have proof that it attracts pike.
Yeah, it does. I mean, people have laughed at it, but I think the noise off the boat in water up to about 8 feet.
And probably the smell as well. Of the
Yeah,
baits,
I think it's the vibration and the noise that attracted to the vibration, and the actual boat going along on the surface. I think it's attracted them because several times when I've dropped a bait out with the boat, you get a take straight away. But it only works in shallow water because I've tried it. So I think it does attract pike, yeah.
Have you ever thought of putting hooks here and catching a 40-pounder off this as a lure?
What happens if it doesn't come undone though? I wouldn't like to see me £1,000 boat sinking, would I?
So if you had one
Pretty
for
good.
each foot, you could actually go skiing on it.
Yeah, probably. It'd be handy, wouldn't it?
It's
And
the
they'd pay you for
technology.
that as well, wouldn't they?
Well, you never know, they might
Amazing
do.
discoveries.
Yeah, there you are.
Nice one, Nigel.
So play me softly but firmly. Oh yeah, I won't get away. Yeah, you better catch and return me, and I'll fight another day. Oh yeah, 'cause I don't believe she'd have an affair if she's up to her knees in the mud. But it's a kiss that I miss in this war against fish. The one that got away is love, sweet love. The one that got away is love. The one that got away is love. Love.